welcome to Great Principles. I am Seema Chhoriya. Great Principles, an educational and interactive talk show that brings together best school leader from the globe. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grew up. We adults crave to go back to our childhood days and activities, yet we stop from being childish as it is a mark of immaturity. We grow old before age catches up on us. My enthusiastic guest of today quotes GB Shaw. We don't stop playing games because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing games. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jarlath Madine, Principal, St. Mary's Private School, Ras Al Khaimah, UAE. Welcome to Great Principles, sir. It's an honor to have you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Seema. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited with the prospect of speaking with you.
Great, sir. So let us begin by knowing where it all started. So once upon a time, you saw an opportunity to make difference in people's life and grabbed it with both the hands and heart. Would you say that you have achieved what you were set to do?
I'm not sure I actually set out with anything specific in mind. I mean, it was always a general feeling that I had that I would like to do something that's going to make people's lives better. So if I was to reflect, I would say, yes, definitely I have achieved that over the years, either as a classroom teacher, when it all started, or, in the last few years when I've been a school principal, when I've been responsible for the lives of not only children, but also teachers as well. So yes, is the short answer.
All right. Wonderful to know this, sir, that yes, we all strive, we all keep on thinking that what am I set to do, and our goals are yet to achieve, and we keep on striving for it. So moving ahead in our conversation, sir, as an educator, your journey is across continent and countries, and that really sounds very fascinating to me. And it's like an adventure. It had a fair amount of challenges and excitement also, I'm sure about it. So describe a few major similarity or differences in educational format of these countries that you have visited and being as an educator there.
Okay. Well, I suppose to use a cliche, same but different. Like across the world, across the globe, we all have to eat, but we all eat different foods. If you're in Ireland, we'll eat potatoes. We might have some salt and pepper. If you go to Thailand, you'll have wonderful spices that we wouldn't get in Ireland, but we all have to eat. So everything is, pretty much the same, but there's always a different slant to things. I suppose the big similarity is parents always want what's best for their children. They say we need a good education. But that sort of differs in some countries as to what do they mean by a good education. Some people may think a good education is sitting in the classroom very quietly, not speaking and listening to the teacher for a very long time. Other people may think, no, I want my children to be active and I want them outside. I want them to be exploring, experimenting, doing those type of things. So that's the big difference. So when I was working in different countries, with different cultures, you certainly got that from parents. But I've always worked in a British sort of style education, so that was the big thing is trying to educate the parents as well as to that, you've obviously opted for a British international education, but this is what it means. So it's not just about exams, but it's about a lot of other things as well, and, it's not just professionally, but, personally, it was always very exciting for me to arrive in different countries and, go outside for the first time and go, wow. I remember my first time in Asia, I had to stand on the street and just, look, take it all in, the smells, the noises. It was just fascinating,
Yeah. All right. So, sir, what do you think after being in so many countries and seeing so many education systems so closely? Which education system, according to you, is the one which holistically develops the child?
Well, I guess I am biased, and when I sort of will say sort of a British style education, we have world league tables, we have rankings, and things like PISA and TIMSS, etc., who will rank countries according to how well they do in literacy and mathematics and science. You know, like I'm actually from Ireland, you know, which has got a British type education system as well. And if you look at Ireland, they will always be in the top 10, even in the top 3, you know, with
Yeah.
maths and literature, for example. And in my recent job, which was in Malaysia, they ranked towards the bottom in most elements. Now, and I had this discussion many a time with educators and saying, you know, we need to have longer school days. We need to have more days in the school year. And in Malaysia, I think they do something like over 200 days per year in secondary schools, maybe 210. In Ireland, it's around 167 days. You know, so the whole idea of spending longer on something, whether it's a longer school calendar or a longer school day, or you do more maths lessons, doesn't really work. You know, it's all about the quality. And it's not about what the teacher does, it's about what teachers allow the students to do. You know, you need to practice, you need to experiment, you need to have a go, you need to make mistakes. You know, like I never learned to ride a bicycle by sitting, listening to my father or my mother telling me how to do it. I did it by getting on, falling off, learning from that, getting on again, and before you know it, you can do it. So it's whatever the education system allows students to apply the skills and the knowledge that teachers have taught them, then that's definitely the best one. And that's what the British education system tries to do.
Completely agree with you, sir. You know, I think many a times we confuse education and literacy. Literacy is something different. That is something which makes you proficient in your reading and writing and communicating style. But you know, education is far beyond literacy. It teaches, it prepares you for life, and life is all about applying what you have learned. So yes, the education system which helps a student to apply the knowledge is definitely the best one. And as sir mentioned, that the British education system follows this system of applying the knowledge, applying the skills, and children are given more opportunity to experiment. So that is what is needed to be adopted globally across all the education systems. Then only we can see a difference, right, sir?
100% agree. No, I've just, you know, started in my school here, and you know, I say there's good teaching going on. We're following the British system, but we certainly need more opportunities to apply this knowledge. And this is why, you know, introducing things like projects into the classroom is fantastic, because it shows, you know, what the children have learned and what they can do, but it also exposes what they cannot do. You know, if they need to, I don't know, they're making some type of an invention and they want to know how can I stick a piece of glass to some plastic? Well, if you haven't learned how to do that in theory and you haven't practiced it, you're never going to know how to do those things. So, you know, these are important. You know, I've also worked in IB schools, and I worked in one particular IB school, International Baccalaureate. I was in Vietnam, and the students were fantastic at inquiring and having a go and all of these things. It was fantastic. However, their literacy skills were preventing them from really going forward. They didn't really know how to research. Once they found something, they couldn't read that well to find the information they needed. They couldn't communicate through written form. So we had to go back and actually introduce more formal aspects of the curriculum in order for them to progress. So you need both. You need the skills, but you need the opportunities to apply those skills. So if you can get a school that can do both of those, then we're definitely on to a winner for sure.
Absolutely, sir. So going ahead, sir, you know, as your school has varied ethnicities of your staff and students that affect the learning, teaching, working dynamics in your schools. So what do you think when children get to sit with children from other countries, other ethnicities, other culture, how do they fit in and how it impacts their learning modules?
You know, I first worked overseas in 1991, which is a very, very long time ago. You probably weren't even born then because you look so young, you know.
I
But
was. Thank you.
but I was in Bangkok, I was in Thailand, and I was overwhelmed with the number of nationalities in my classroom and in the school, you know, because coming from Ireland, you know, we didn't have many people from different countries there. So I was just just excited by the different nationalities, but children don't notice these things. They just, it's not even in their sort of psyche to even notice that someone's from a different country. And, I think after a while, I became like that as well. And all you saw were children and what they needed to learn. You saw their personality. So you didn't actually notice where they were from. It's generally the adults, the teachers, and the parents who have these issues, And, another example, I was recently working in Doha, and we had something like 90 different nationalities, all over the world, and sadly, some parents, wanted to be very specific in which type of person was teaching their children. And they were saying to me, Mr. Jarlath, you said this person was British, the teacher. And I go, yeah, they're from Oxford. And said, but no, but they look Indian or they look Pakistan. I said, yeah, their grandparents came from Pakistan, I think, and, and it was like educating the parents about what a multicultural society is. And I said, I said, look, you've chosen to come to an international school for a reason. But one of the reasons, even though you don't know it, is to make your children more globally acceptable of other people and people of them as well. So what you're doing here is just developing their global mindset. It doesn't matter, just because somebody may look Indian or Chinese doesn't mean they're from there. It means, it doesn't mean anything. So it's trying to, get rid of all those sort of, preconceived notions that some people, when they come to live overseas for the first time, have. These days, I don't know, many places in the globe. Once again, like in Malaysia, when I was working there, we had parents who said, no, I just want my children to be, they're not going to live overseas. They're going to live in Kuala Lumpur here, and they're going to be running my factory for me. And I said, that's fine. I said, but if you go into Kuala Lumpur, where we all live, do you just see Malaysians? I says, look at me. Am I Malaysian? No. I says, well, whether you like it or not, your children are going to be working and growing up with and living with people from different countries. So that's all sort of part of the whole of the big education program as well. And, there may be differences in curriculum, and we do that. So, for example, in order for students to come back to, say, university in India, they'll need to have 8 IGCSEs. Egypt, you'll need 8 IGCSEs. In other countries, you need 5. So as a school, we'll make sure that the students have all those requirements to help them with their further case. But it's a very small part of what people do in school.
Wonderful. So it's great to know that when children at this age, when they sit together with the people from different, with the students from different nations, that is what gives them the global mindset. And you rightly said, when we step into the other country, we're a little hesitant about accommodating there. So when our children are being prepared at school level to be with the people, those who look different, those who are from different culture, they easily adapt to it, and going forward they're able to do business also very well, and live together for a global cause.
Absolutely. And one of the things I've always liked being in a school was lunchtime, and you go around the hall or the classrooms or wherever the students are eating, and you see all these children just looking at each other and going, what are you eating? And you might remember once having this little Sri Lankan child had her lunchbox, and she was eating with her hand with the rice and sambal, and there was another child from the UK who was eating a peanut butter sandwich, and they were just looking at each other and said, how can you eat that stuff? And then suddenly, I know that you're not supposed to share food these days with allergies and stuff, but then this is when you can create opportunities to say, right, let's have share our lunch day, bring in some food, and parents can come in and they can learn from each other that way. Because as the most important time in anybody's day or life is when they eat. This is your time to share time with people, whether it's your family, whether you're a tourist, or where you're working. Is that moment when you can relax and sort of share some food together, and that's when we can learn a lot about each other. Get into the classrooms through our maths and our science, etc. But in our lunch times, we can learn a lot about each other.
Certainly, sir. And what is fantastic is research has proved that children learn best with peers. So when they are, when so many from different nations are sitting together and sharing their lunch boxes and just understanding what type of cuisine is there, what is the food, what is the culture in different countries, there is so much to learn about how the person is being brought up and what is his background and how can we gel in up with others. So a wonderful thing to have a globally international school which fits in all the people from different nationalities. So, going ahead in our conversation, sir, with a trail of success stories behind you, each school you led today is a shining example of your able leadership. So, it's a legacy that to be proud of, I'm sure about it. So, which of your achievement resonates with your still childlike personalities, do you think?
I guess sort of just thinking probably the school I was in two schools in Qatar, so it was the most recent one, and I was very fortunate to have the job to set it up from scratch, you know, and that was very exciting. Now, I mean, I was actually owned by Qatar Airways, and it was a school for their staff, and it was managed by a company in the UK called Orbital Education. You know, there were many schools, so there was lots of help, of course, in the building and buying the desks and the chairs and the maths books and all of that. But the exciting bit was establishing the culture and the personality of the school. You know, and it's a bit like that. I'm also a father, so it's a bit like, all families are different. So how do you get your family to be unique? So there, I just wanted lots of fun in the school. I wanted lots of opportunities for activities and laughter and events. I had to make sure that children were engaged in the classroom. So there was lots of hands-on learning. Because to be honest, I struggled with learning when I was at school. I was very, I don't know, I just couldn't maintain concentration for a long time. And if a teacher was talking too long, I got very bored. So I had to make sure children do not get bored in school. You know, we need to make sure that everything is broad and balanced, that there's lots of art, there's lots of technology, there's lots of opportunities for projects and research and sports. Children can learn to play a musical instrument. I made sure all of those things were in school. I also made sure that parents were involved in the school as well, that it's not just them and us, and I've got another little cliche or phrase that I use, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just the teachers who educate the children, it's everybody. We're all responsible for that. So I had to make sure that our school became like that, and when I was leaving, I had a fantastic send off, not because I was going, it was because they were sad I was leaving, but it was just like, thanks for sort of helping us create our village. And there was the relationships in that school were so strong. It's such a strong community. Everybody felt part of it, and there wasn't this sort of austerity or coldness that you get from some schools who are more like institutions than homes. So I would say for sure that was very special to me, being able to put my sort of cultural stamp and personality on the school as well.
Absolutely. I think the major responsibility that an educator shoulders is to make children fall in love with learning. And once you have achieved that, then you have achieved everything. Because if the child becomes a lifelong learner, learning continues and the child keeps on growing. So, on these lines, Sir has developed this philosophy that the children shouldn't get bored in the school, and he ensured that they must keep on learning and keep on experimenting. So wonderful, sir. This is, this kind of atmosphere should be there in every school wherein child has so many of opportunities. I really appreciate the efforts taken by you, and this can be a model setup which can be just replicated in other schools.
Okay, no, thank you. And just to add to that, I did the same in my school in Malaysia. So it's not just like a big party we're at instead of going to school. Like the year before I started, we had something like 65% of the students got A star to C. But in my first year, at the end of my first year, we got up to 96% of the students got A star to C. The UK average is 75%. So we can get the high exam results. That's really important, but we can also have the engagement, and the happiness and involvement, the holistic development, as well as just the academic development as well. So both are important and both need to happen.
Absolutely. Many times we are so much focused on IQ that we just forget the HQ. Somewhere the happiness quotient remains always lagged, and that is where focus needs to be there so that the children enjoy the learning. So, going ahead, sir, you are an exemplary leader with the qualities that would draw many educators to be like you. So, is there any educationist that you look upon for your inspiration, advice, and support?
Yeah, look, there's always lots of people out there that I sort of follow and read, but there's one book that I read that just went, wow, it makes sense to me. It sort of put some type of evidence to the beliefs that I always had, and that was a person called Daniel Goleman. I don't know if you've read his books, but basically, he talks about emotional intelligence. And as his book, the book I read, the first book I read was called Emotional Intelligence: Why It Matters More Than IQ. So EQ versus IQ. And that just puts everything into perspective, And if you think back, you will know people who they might be a surgeon, but they might be very unhappy. Maybe nobody likes them. Maybe, they can't look after themselves. But you can also see people who haven't got lots of qualifications, but are very successful and happy. So we have this emotional intelligence along with the cognitive intelligence. And, both are important, but the EQ, the emotional intelligence, is the aspect that will certainly, make or break you. You can become a doctor if you've got the cognitive intelligence, but you want to be a great doctor, then you need the high emotional intelligence. Do you want to be a great teacher? You need the emotional intelligence. You want to be a great parent? You need the emotional intelligence. So that's something that I always develop in schools as well. And, and try and sort of put some programs into place that, that you can actually actively sort of teach these aspects of life. So that would be the one standout person that comes to mind.
Wonderful, sir. So, to all my educators out there, go ahead and grab the book of Daniel Goleman and check out how
Definitely.
this has helped. And it will be great help to each one of you in your educational journey. So, sir, we have reached to a very interesting segment of the show, which is called Rapid Fire Round. You have to answer in a word or a statement.
Okay.
All right. So, here goes the first question. You spend your recreational time indulging in activities like?
Sport.
So, which is your favorite sport?
Well, I'm older now, so golf. But I've recently taken up stand-up paddleboarding. So that's my sort of favorite activity at the moment. But I've always played sport: football, Gaelic football, rugby, running, trekking in the mountains. I go trekking most weekends up in the mountains. So I love nature. I love just being outside all of the time. If at all possible, I could just live outside. A little campfire.
Certainly. So, we all crave for nature. I think nature is
Oh
something
my
we all
goodness,
connect
yeah.
to.
Yes.
Yeah. Going ahead, sir. Next question. Tell us about a funny or a weird incident in your life.
Oh my goodness, a weird incident. What would that be? Okay. I recently, I left work in Malaysia and I took a couple of months off just to chill and not do anything. I've been working solid for the past 36 years. So I decided to go on a walk, a hike in Spain called the Camino. Um, it's a very famous pilgrimage. It goes to Santiago de Compostela in the north of Spain. But it meant me sort of walking just under 800 kilometers, and I did it in sort of 31 days. And that was fantastic. You walked 25 kilometers every day, maybe more, maybe less. And it was just amazing. And I remember one day and for breakfast, I always had an apple. Okay. So I used to take an apple with me, and that was my main breakfast. And I was walking one day and I went, oh my goodness, I don't have my apple. What am I going to do? Yeah, it was still sort of dark. There was in Spain, nothing opens until about 9 o'clock. And it was getting daylight. And so I have no apple. What's going to happen? Right behind me, I heard a thud. And I looked behind me, and an apple fell from the tree just behind me. And I went, I better eat that. And I picked up the apple and I bit into it, and it had to be the most sweetest, delicious, juiciest apple I have ever had. And that was it. You know, it was just amazing. You know, that sort of thing sort of happened. I mean, I think probably the message out of that is whatever you want, it's out there somewhere. You know, you
Yeah.
might have to look for it a little bit harder. Sometimes things don't fall off trees, but I'm a big believer in, if you need something, it's out there. You just have to find it. You know.
Absolutely, sir. Completely agree with you. If you really wish something and you really wish deep from your heart and you make the efforts to achieve it, even the nature tries its best so that you gain what you wish for. And that is what something happened with you, I suppose. You were so very, just desperate about the apple that it came to you.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't have heard it drop. There might have been dropping all week or
Yeah.
all day or whatever. I don't know, but because it was in my mind. But anyway,
Yeah.
it
So
came to me, my apple, my breakfast. So I was very happy.
great, sir. Going ahead to the next question, which is your family's favorite travel destination?
Oh, I guess you probably better ask them. But we had a house in Turkey for many years, and we used to enjoy going there down to the sort of the south west of Turkey to a place called Kusadasi. And it was just a beautiful place, inside a big pine forest by the beach. Lots of restaurants. The kids sort of grew up knowing all the guys and the people who worked in the restaurants and the cafes. So yeah, that used to be a very special place that we used to go to.
All right, coming up to the next question. Your favorite street food and from which country?
Oh my goodness, you could do a whole show on this.
All right, really?
Oh wow, my goodness. Right, I'm going to have to go with Thailand.
Mhm.
No, oh my goodness. Okay. No, Vietnam, or is it Thailand, or could even be Malaysia. I love them all, but okay, Thailand, Bangkok is noodles, big noodles called Pat Yo. They're
Mhm.
big fried noodles, and you can have chicken in them or whatever you want in them. So I think that's definitely one of my sort of favorite ones, But in Kuala Lumpur, chicken satay, you can't beat it. Vietnam, pho, oh, everything. I think one of my favorite things in life, might be the number one after my children, would be street food. And just to sit outside, not just to eat it, but to look at people, to see how they cook, look how they present the table. Do you eat with your hands? Do you eat with a spoon? Do you eat with a fork? Do you eat with chopsticks? Do you put chili flakes on it? What's all the condiments? All of that just fascinates me. And if I could spend my days, would be sitting outside on the street, just eating and drinking, just different things. There's nothing better.
Great. So, it's so good to know that you're a foodie, you love to travel, you love sports. There's so many traits of yours, sir. So, just the last question of this segment now. One advice for our parents out there.
Just to love your children and take an interest in them, get them to be able to trust you and to communicate with them. Don't be going on to them about doing homework and maths and this. Just make sure you've got good connection with them, because when they get older, that's when their big problems come, and they'll want you and you'll want them as well to be able to sort of communicate with each other. So just make sure that they know that you really, really do care about them and take an interest in what they do and spend as much time as possible with them. When you have the opportunity, leave the maths and the homework to teachers in school. Don't worry about that. That's just not important, to be honest. But it's the connection you make with them and that sort of trust. I'm very lucky. I've got 4 children, and
Mhm.
I have a great relationship with them. And I know if you ask them the question, they would sort of say the same thing as well, and they can talk to me about things. And that's all I want from life. Really, is still to be a big part of their lives. So you can start doing that now when your children are young, because if you don't do it when they're young, it's difficult to do it when they're older, because people develop habits, and it could be too late then.
Absolutely. So, because that is when the bond is established between the parent and the child, and that bond is the eternal one, which goes on forever. When the child starts understanding that yes, my parents are there for whatever may happen in my life, they are there. I can go up to them, talk to them, share with them, and that is what they need. Because at some point of time, there is need which each one of us feel that we need someone with whom we can share everything. So that is the role that
Absolutely,
parents
yeah,
play.
yeah. It's unconditional love, So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter like what you've done wrong. Your mom and dad will always be there for you. But they'll advise you and they'll say, well, that was wrong to do, etc. So they're educating you as well at the same time. But yeah, definitely, that's what we need to do.
So this brings to me to the last question of the show, which is called viewer's choice question. So my viewer says that approachable leaders are reliable and consistent, and this makes them highly likable. Interactive sessions helps to create a strong bonds. So how can school leaders bond with the two most important school stakeholders of the education, that is students and parents? How can parents be more participatives in schools?
Well, I totally agree with that. What I do, what I've always done, is stand outside school every morning at drop off and every afternoon at sort of pick up. So I can actually talk to parents casually, informally, build up those relationships in the same way, at lunch times and break times, to be around so I can talk to the children as well. So, you have to be approachable. Because sometimes, some people think, oh, the principal is this distant, far off figure that nobody talks to or whatever. And you know what? Sadly, in some schools, that is the case.
True.
But once, parents know they can actually talk to the principal, then everything else falls into place. You also have to create opportunities. Like in my schools, I would normally have, workshops and principal parent coffee mornings that they can come in and I can listen to what they think about some ideas I have, or vice versa. Just create opportunities for them to come into school, set up parent associations, anything, blogs that they can send comments to you. You can respond back again. Just open door. They can come and talk to you. Just encourage any type of contact where and when is possible. But I think the morning drop off and the afternoon pickup are the times that I feel most valuable in communicating with parents.
Absolutely. So, being approachable is the key there. Principal needs to be approachable, and parents need to feel, whenever they want to communicate with the school, they can be, and they should be free for that. And as you mentioned, have more engagement for parents so that they can have an opportunity to step into the school's child school and be understand how everything is happening there and be a part of child's education. That is what even the child looks for, that my parents are part, they know what is happening in my school, and they understand that what is all going on. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all about creating windows. I mean, if there's no window, you can't see into something to see what's happening. So you have to create these metaphorical windows, so parents can actually see what's happening in the school. So events like at the end of a topic or a period of study, the children can invite the parents in, show them their books, etc.
yeah,
Have assemblies, all of those things. Otherwise, people will start to create themselves what they think is happening in the school. Plus,
absolutely.
plus Google Forms as well, really important.
Mhm.
Like one of my secretaries said, "Oh, Mr. Jarlath, 90% of the parents want the school to be closed because they want to have distance learning, with COVID." I said,
Mhm.
90%? How do you know? I said, well, just all the messages. So I did a Google form, sent it home, got most of the parents responded straight away, and 84% of the parents wanted to be in school with, face-to-face learning. So, Google Forms is also very good to find out information quickly.
Absolutely. So, many a times we just assume that this is what everyone is thinking just on the basis of one's opinion, and that is what is certainly very wrong.
It's
And I
totally
think,
wrong. It's yes, but it's usually the person who shouts the loudest that we think is correct. which isn't the case at all. So no, you know, you're 100% right. You know, you need to get evidence and get our facts, and technology is really helpful these days, you know, to find
Certainly.
that.
And now the classrooms are inside the technology, are inside the mobile phone, inside the screens, and technology is imperative in education. And such wonderful things we can do with technology if we use it in the right direction, so with the advent of technology, anything is possible, I'm sure, sir, of that. So on this note, we will end our conversation, sir, here, that technology is the key for success of education further, for making it more collaborative. Now we are engaging and talking through technology. I'm sitting in one nation and you are in other, and we're interacting seamlessly. So this is the beauty. It has brought the world closer to us. And similarly, today children have the liberty to learn from the best of the faculties of the world, to educate in whichever the field they want them to. So this is the beauty of technology. And yes, with the technology, anything is possible. So, sir, Jarlath, sir, I admire your strong belief system in welfare of children and unfailing efforts to make this possible through education. I, on behalf of my viewers, thank you for talking to us about your vision, journey, and as an educator, and challenging your thoughts that will benefit the society and the world in big way. Thank you so much for your time with us. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure my viewers have gained so much today.
No, no, thank you, Seema. I enjoyed it. I always love the opportunity to talk to anybody about education or about making it better. So thank you, and hope everything goes well for you in the future.
Thank you, sir.